Hello there, I'm that Gamer guy back with another video. As I alluded to in my previous video, this week we're talking film. I went to the cinema a lot more in 2017 and consequently saw a lot more films, some of which being films that had I not seen the trailers at the cinema may have very well slipped under my radar. And this video is going to be my 5 film favourites of 2017. This list, however, will be excluding any films that came out during last year's Oscar season, otherwise we all know La La Land's going to be at the top of this list. And I'm also going to be excluding any films that have landed a Big 6 Oscar nomination for this year, as I'm going to be doing an Oscar predictions video sometime later this month. So we're talking the very middle of 2017 here. So my first film favourite of 2017 ironically didn't even have a cinema release, and that is Okja. So Okja is actually a Netflix exclusive, so I'm not going to explain too much of the plot for Okja or indeed any of the films on this list. All you need to know is that Okja is essentially it's almost like a live action Studio Ghibli film. On the surface it seems family friendly. Okja is a cute super pig, but as you progress further into the film the dark undertones become more apparent. No spoilers, but the last 15 minutes especially is enough to make anyone want to go vegetarian. I myself am, I guess, a part-time vegetarian. On this occasion though, throughout watching Okja I was eating some sausage rolls. I know I'm part of the problem, but towards the end of the film I did genuinely have to put my food down, and there was a good 2 to 3 day period afterwards where I was like, I have to go full-time vegetarian. But then it was Christmas and I didn't want to be vegetarian at Christmas, and this is a complete tangent. Okja is a very good film and it's probably the best Netflix exclusive that I've seen so far. You fill up my senses, come fill me again. My second film favourite of 2017 is Colossal. I think Colossal probably had the most misleading trailer of any film I saw in 2017. If I hadn't have read bits here and there online beforehand, I think I might have reacted to the film in a slightly more negative way. What the trailer would have you to believe as a comedy kaiju movie is actually quite a dark film. Yes, there is comedy and yes, there is kaiju. At its core is really about alcoholism and toxic masculinity. And whilst I'm not a fan of Jason Sudeikis as an actor, he is really good in Colossal. If anything, he's better than Anne Hathaway.
Holy shit, Gloria, you gotta see this.
What is he doing?
It's dancing.
Is dancing like...
Holy shit.
Okay, my third film favourite of 2017 is A Ghost Story. Whilst this list, like most of my lists, isn't in any particular order, Ghost Story is probably my overall film favourite of 2017. And this is a prime example of a fantastic film that nobody saw. I literally don't know anybody other than the person I went to the cinema with that has seen this film. In fact, as I said earlier, had I not seen the trailer for this film at the cinema, I would not have known of its existence. This film is very minimal. The main character is literally a ghost underneath a bedsheet who doesn't speak. Consequently, there is very little dialogue and very little acting, yet somehow it is so effective. The story told is beautiful and the soundtrack is so good. I think I listened to nothing but that soundtrack for the 2 weeks that followed. So yeah, if there's one film on this list that I recommend you go watch, it's A Ghost Story. It's a fairly short film, so if you like it, brilliant. And if you don't like it, at least you tried. You're wrong, but at least you tried. My fourth film favourite of 2017 is Mother. Actually, it's Mother with an exclamation mark, so I think it's meant to be Mother! So Mother is arguably one of the most divisive films of 2017. Audiences seem to hate it, and critics seem to either love or hate it. I think audiences probably hated it because once again it had quite a misleading trailer. It was somewhat marketed as a horror film, and let me tell you, your standard horror film goers would not like this film. And that's because Mother doesn't really have a narrative, instead it's just a series of events. I really don't want to sound elitist, but I get the impression that some people are just too unintelligent for it. This film is not meant to be taken literally. It is one long metaphor or allegory. And the reason it was so divisive amongst critics is that critics either found this metaphor inspiring or pretentious. And I get that. But Darren Aronofsky is one of the most pretentious directors of modern cinema. So I happen to like pretentiousness.
Where is he?
So my fifth and final film... Oh my god. Tongue twister. So my fifth and final film favourite of 2017, yes, is Blade Runner 2049. Blade Runner is one of my favourites, if not my favourite sci-fi film of all time, and the sequel does not disappoint. So I don't think I need to explain why it's on this list, but I will. I can't think of many other sci-fi worlds that are as fully realised as the Blade Runners. When you compare it to something like Star Wars, which is very high fantasy sci-fi, and would never possibly exist in the real world, the Blade Runner universe on the other hand seems very possible, if not probable, and it's very hard to fault this film. The acting is good, Ryan Gosling's definitely stepped his game up, the visuals are of course amazing, and the soundtrack is very nearly as good as its predecessor. In fact, of all the films on this list, Blade Runner 2049 is the one that I'm most surprised that it didn't land itself a Big Six Oscar nomination. One thing I will say is make sure you watch the original before the sequel, as it will help you appreciate it just that little bit more.
Cells.
Have you ever been in an institution? Cells.
Cells.
When you're not performing your duties, do they keep you in a little box? Cells.
Cells.
Interlinked.
Interlinked.
What's it like to hold the hand of someone you love? Interlinked.
So there we go, those are my film favourites of 2017. Thank you for watching. Please feel free to leave your favourites down in the comments. And with that, I'll say goodbye. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more. And if there's anything gaming, geek or LGBT related that you'd like me to discuss in a future video, then please leave your suggestions down in the comments. Whoa. I'm going to go watch my other half eat a pie. I hope to see you guys next time. But until then,